So, stress. Nobody is free from stress. Can we say that? People from low socioeconomic statuses, not diseases, people from low social class are exposed to a certain kinds of stress. Middle income folks also have their own sources of stress, which may be different from the low income individuals or those from low social class. And those from high socioeconomic statuses, whether it is measured by income, occupation, wealth, assets, or education level, it doesn't matter. They are exposed to their own unique kinds of stress. Can we say that? Nobody is free from stress. And stress can affect the functioning of dopamine. And stress can also affect dopamine analog. And these can affect our chances of experiencing positive feelings or happiness. The stress we are exposed to on a daily basis can affect our mood. We can say that. And some people may use or even misuse or abuse substance, drinking, cigarettes, drugs, and so on. When they are exposed to stress, not everyone. So stress may lead to substance abuse. And substance abuse can increase the person's chance of getting insomnia. Insomnia is a legit medical condition, right? Or substance use, abuse, or misuse can lead to sleeping problems. If the person is not diagnosed, it's classified as sleeping problems. And prolonged substance use, abuse, or misuse can increase the person's risk of getting cancer, especially lung and liver cancer. And this is a manifestation of comorbidity. Can you see that? Stress, it can be one of the mental health conditions. It can lead to different kinds of physical health conditions. It's a manifestation of comorbidity. Can you see that? Okay. So we've been through this before. The quality and even quantity of our diet depends on our socio-economic statuses. Am I right? Income, education, occupation, residence, wealth, assets, and so on. And whether we are going to have a healthy or balanced diet can be tied to our socio-economic statuses. And this in turn affects our cognitive performance in the long run, our chances of getting dementia. And this can also affect our brain health in the long run. These ultimately affect our sleep quality or whether we can improve our sleep or not. This can affect our mental state, especially depression and anxiety. This is a manifestation of comorbidity. This is also a manifestation of how maybe our diet can ultimately affect our mental health. And our socio-economic statuses, income, occupation, education, affect where we can or cannot afford to live, and whether we can or cannot have the opportunity to exercise, whether it is safe to exercise. Maybe in the place we live, there are parks, sidewalks for us to exercise. But if the place is high crime, high unemployment, we may be cautious, we may think twice before we decide whether we want to exercise or not. We may not be inclined to exercise if we live in a poor or high crime neighborhood, even if sidewalks or parks are available. We don't want to get mugged. It's a common sense. And exercise can affect our endorphins. It is a feel-good chemical. This in turn affects our energy level and our mood. So this is another manifestation of comorbidity. Exercise can prevent certain physical health conditions, and this ultimately affect our energy level and mood. And diet can also affect the risk of different physical health conditions, and this ultimately affect our mental state. So these two examples are manifestations of comorbidity. Okay, so our social economic statuses, we've been through this multiple times, can affect whether we are food secure or food insecure or somewhere in the middle. This can affect whether we are inclined or less inclined to engage in obesogenic behaviors like consuming calorie and energy-dense food or low-nutrient foods. These are all classified under obesogenic behaviors. And our social economic statuses not only affects food insecurity or food security, this affects our abilities or inabilities to manage existing diseases. And I forgot to mention, obesogenic behaviors can also include consumption of red and processed meat. And this in turn affects the risk for hyperglycemia. I think this means blood sugar spikes. And this can also affect our A1C level, our abilities or inabilities to manage any existing diseases can affect blood sugar spikes and A1C level. This in turn affects the risk for different diseases like diabetes, visual impairment, nerve damage, and so on. And having these diseases or knowing that we are at a high risk for these diseases can definitely affect our mental state. So this is how physical health can also affect mental health. It's another manifestation of comorbidity. Okay. So whether we consume high, medium, or low amounts of red or processed meat, and whether we are inclined to take public transportation, whether it's a bus or subways or taxis or whatnot, to get access to healthy food, and whether we have the opportunity to exercise or not. It depends on where we live to some degree. And it also affects our different likelihoods of being food insecure or food secure. And we've been through this. Obesogenic behaviors or engaging in obesogenic behaviors, eating calorie and energy-dense food, eating low-nutrients food, having a high consumption of red or processed meat can be a direct consequences of food insecurity. We resort to all these food sources, and these food sources, most of them are unhealthy. Food insecurity can challenge our ability to manage not only disease, but also weight. Food insecurity can challenge both disease and weight management. It can also affect insulin resistance. It can also affect our blood glucose, cholesterol level, and blood pressure. And this in turn affects our risk for being obese, having diabetes, or having cardiovascular diseases, and so on. And this ultimately makes disease management more challenging. And sometimes food insecurity can also be a source of stress. People who are food insecure, usually they have low socioeconomic statuses. It's a no-brainer. Whether it is low income, low education, or in a less prominent occupation, insecure jobs, it can be stressful. Being food insecure is tied to a person's socioeconomic statuses, and it can be stressful. Some of these people may abuse substance. And when all these factors combine, it can lead to more challenging disease management. And food insecurity can also directly affect the person's ability to activate stress response. And it can also lead to different kinds of anxiety and depressive symptoms. It's a no-brainer. When somebody realizes that they need to make whatever food they have to last longer, when they realize they have no money to buy food, these are different manifestations of food insecurity. It can be stressful for the person or for the whole family. It's a no-brainer. So the point is, food insecurity can lead to mental illnesses or can affect the person's mental state. This is another manifestation of comorbidity. Okay, I think we are done.